And a good Saturday afternoon to you, Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights, VELCO Weather Hazards Forecaster. Here's the big picture. We're looking at also Tropical Storm Fiona that's going to spin up potentially to a Category 1 hurricane. It's going to encounter the mountains of the island of Hispaniola, potentially break apart, weaken the system. Some of those remnants could then drift a little further west and be more or less closer to a lane that could affect North America. Right now, most of the computer modeling world wants to take Fiona, spin it up to a Category 2 or 3 intensity as it gets close to Bermuda. And then from there, right now it's basically out into the North Atlantic and not a problem for North America. However, there is a couple model runs of the European ensemble that there's an area of low pressure that's going to be moving across the country, mostly eastern Canada. It's going to develop a deepening area of trough or a cutoff low. And that there is potential of that capturing Fiona and then pulling it back, hooking it left toward the Canadian Maritimes. Typically, these are pretty rare events. It did happen with Sandy, so it's something we need to keep a close eye on. What that would take is a big, large blocking area of higher pressure to the north of that point, a cutoff low, and then some sort of capture where it gets pulled into the Maritimes, or the worst case scenario, into eastern parts of New England. And if that were to take place, we would definitely have some issues to worry about with multiple types of parameters of problems. Now, in the meantime, we are looking at a pretty hefty weather system. This is part of a trough of lower pressure. It's been digging out west. In the meantime, here in the east, we have this ridge of higher pressure. Temperatures, you can kind of see that basically we're in the 60s and warming into the 70s. Dew points kind of tell the story. That's where the main moisture flow is. And we have this kind of flow with this trough that's now working its way down off the west coast. This is kind of rearranging the jet stream. A lot of changes are coming about, so the model's having a little bit more particular trouble, and the longer range much past around 5-6 days. Something to consider there. But this weather system is going to have a lot of jet stream energy. It's going to drive it. And then we're going to see this kind of a complex feature here with a lot of moisture and warmth to the south, colder air and much drier conditions to the north. That interaction is going to develop a frontal boundary, and that's going to be working in. It looks like it'll be developing overnight across our neck of the woods here in Vermont, and mostly northern Vermont starting tonight, Saturday night, and then continuing for a period probably not until Tuesday, where it will let up finally Tuesday morning and things will start to dry out just a bit. And we're looking at a good day on Wednesday. That's our next best project weather day. But this will feature some shower and thunderstorm activity, and so there is some possibilities for some isolated impacts with about 30 knots of shear on Sunday, and possibly a little bit more robust action along about Monday with the shower and thunderstorm activity due to these higher dew point temperatures advecting into the region and warming temperatures at least through Sunday. Now, looking at the models, we have high pressure and control on this Saturday afternoon, and that area of higher pressure is going to drift off to the south a little bit. It's going to open the door for this sort of baroclinic zone between these weather systems to the north, an area of higher pressure and much colder air, and then what I was showing you here with the higher dew points that are advecting in. And this would be kind of the formation of a frontal boundary or a frontal genesis. And conditions are such right now that they are pushing on in like this and kind of sliding just to the north during the overnight period. So once the showers start, we're going to see some embedded thunderstorm activity. It looks like most of this doesn't really happen until once we get into the late part of the day on Sunday, but things will definitely turn south in our weather. And this is the GFS deterministic on the right, European on the left. Sticking with the European, you can also see the remnants or Fiona right here, or Tropical Storm Fiona, then encountering the island of Hispaniola. And then we'll continue to watch that. And with the GFS on the left, you can kind of compare notes here. I'm sorry, European on the left, GFS on the right. That will continue to roll up somewhere in the Bahamas. Just running the model here. We're going to switch to the 0Z now. Looking at the 0Z modeling, so it'll go out a little bit further here, and we can see that this is a digging trough, a pretty strong ridge of higher pressure, jet stream energy with a big digging trough here that's inbound. And that's going to have some sort of interaction, and this is the thing I'm worried about. Now this is the Euro. We have the GFS on the right-hand side, that the deterministic. These are temperatures, of course, cold enough to snow. That's also significant, with a pretty significant cool down happening late next week. And then watch what happens here as we get a little bit of a Sandy-esque kind of left turn. Now this is very far out. Probably not going to happen, but this model run, it's showing it. GFS shows you that, where it just basically goes out to sea. Now looking at the Canadian model does not hook back in, but it definitely starts to cut off and become captured just south of Nova Scotia and just kind of lollygags around a little bit before it begins to lose its definition and works into parts of Nova Scotia, the Canadian Maritimes. And that is the Canadian model there. GFS ensemble centered on the grid point of Montpelier. We can see the main precipitation, a couple double peaks here. This is going to be the flow that's coming in out of the northwest with that quasi-stationary frontal boundary that's going to be going back and forth. Then we get into drier weather once we get into Tuesday night. And during Wednesday, we have a nice day, good project weather, dry project weather, before another round of Thursday with some showers and thunderstorms, and that gets followed by some good project weather. Put it all together, and the total QPF is over 1 inch amounts. This is 1 inch, and you can see that the average plume here, the darker black line, with the blue line, the latest GFS deterministic model, all above 1 inch. This is the business that we're going to be seeing over the course of really about 36, 48 hours. Then we dry out, slows down, and then Thursdays bump up in precipitation there. Looking at some of the other parameters, 850 hectopascal temperatures, they stay above the freezing mark up until very late in the period. And looking at the wind department, nothing of any great shakes until we get in past, once we get toward next weekend. Precipitable water is pretty high, 1.4 inches, a little bit of a dip, and then a big dip once drier and much colder air work in the longer range. Cape, not huge, but we're going to have to worry about Sunday, Monday, and those are going to be the only 2 days. Shear is elevated once we get into much past Tuesday, but still around 30, occasionally up close to 40 knots, and Sunday we'll have to worry about that as well. Weather Prediction Center also in line with the European, with a pretty healthy amount of rain. We're much above normal amounts here. Note we're 2.5 inches, pretty solid right now, with the Weather Prediction Center's total 7-day accumulated precip, and that's going to be across portions of northern Vermont. Climate Reanalyzer shows the 2-meter anomalous temperatures a little bit cooler than normal, below normal, but we're going to heat things up in some spots. Looking at what we're going to see for Moss, next 5 days of high temperatures running about 3 to 6 degrees above the norm. And then about 3 days later, things do cool down just a bit. We're back to close to neutral, a little cooler than normal even, in just north of the state. Tropical Storm Fiona, this is the 11 a.m. advisory, again on a track that'll turn it out to sea. Fiona here, and we can see that we have another system, but pretty much 0 chances. Looking in the longer range, that's our only worry here. It's really not a big deal. It's mainly going to be Fiona. The most worrisome aspect about Fiona is if she gets torn apart, probably tracking more north and away from North America. However, there's a possibility that we could see a little bit more of a westward extension as a ridge of higher pressure builds across the eastern areas and keeps it sort of on a northwest course, but at low speeds, 30 to 40 knots. My worry is that it could come up the eastern seaboard at that point in time, or way down around the corner, it could hook inland with that developing cutoff low. We'll have to wait and see. That's way around the corner. Thanks for watching. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights.